Good morning, Tri-Citizens. It's Angie coming to you live again from the Tri-Cities in Washington, southeastern Washington. And today is Throwback Thursday, April 16th, 2020. And I have some things that I want to talk to you a little bit about. I titled this one, Hanford Boom or Bust. It was just something that came up in conversation the other day, and it was something I wanted to kind of go into and explore a little bit. So I've got some show and tell for you, but first, before we get into that, I wanted to give you my first actionable item for today. Again, this came up in conversation as well. Something that I would like you to do some thinking on, and maybe even sit down, get a pad of paper and a pen and write out some ideas, brainstorming, things that might work for you. Different ways, maybe even just one way, different ways that you can diversify your income. So that could include things like adding sources of income, multiple streams of income, and what would that look like? Some things that came to my mind would be some passive sources of income, things like rental, having a rental, or second jobs, either for yourself or a spouse, or if there's a non-working spouse, even a part-time job, that's an extra source of income. Doing some online work. There's different things that are available online that people can do sort of as a side hustle. What else? Investment income, making sure that you're investing in things that are growing and might kick off dividends over time. There's a variety of different things that you can consider. But everything has to kind of come back to what's working for you and what works with your goals, your long-term goals as well. But, while we're in this period where many of us are impacted by the stay-at-home orders, our income has been deeply impacted. And so it is really a reminder. We talk a lot about diversification. Hi, Shane. We talk a lot about diversification when we talk about investing, but that can actually be applied to a lot of our life. Diversifying our income is part of that. And, I think of families where, like in the past, where maybe there was one working spouse in the household, they had one job, and they had no other sources of income. They were really stuck, under the thumb of that employer, and didn't have a lot of control over their own destiny. And so by working in multiple sources of income, multiple jobs, multiple lines of work, I think it's more diversified, and it can actually benefit you in a time like this for sure. So, and the reason I'm kind of highlighting that aspect today is it goes back again to the boom and bust. And so I've mentioned that I'm a longtime Tri-Citian. I've been here my whole life, basically. I've lived away for a chunk of time, but I'm a born and raised Pasco girl. My dad was employed by first the dams and then the Hanford site, and so it just kind of got me thinking. I'm going to walk back a little through time since it's Throwback Thursday. I have a photo here I want to show you. This is kind of, again, I have this awesome Tri-Cities kind of promotional book from, I want to say it's from the 80s. I've had it a long time. But here's kind of a cool picture. I'm not exactly sure what it's of, but I associate it with Hanford out there. So I'm going to back up, see if you can see that. And then there's this other page. So we have this Hanford complex, and it's a really key, important part of our economy here in the Tri-Cities. Historically, it was super, super important, and over time, like from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and now, there's been these cycles of boom and bust. And, Shane, I don't know if your family kind of was living through this part of life here. Hi, Craig. But a lot of us as kids, so a lot of this was kind of before my time, so to speak, but growing up, I think you heard about things, or even now as an adult, I hear stories of how the bust periods were really challenging, because what would happen is all of a sudden the government would tighten, put the squeeze on the budget and cut off funding to the Hanford site, causing a lot of layoffs, like all at once as well. So it was a really big, fast hit to the economy. Cutting off those jobs, people would move to go find new jobs. Houses would be flooded on the market all of a sudden. and it was really hard to get houses sold. It impacted the shops, it impacted all the businesses in the community, much like what's happening today. And so as a result, I know the three communities came together and put together Throwback, which is an economic development body here in the Tri-Cities, to try to discover diversification in the types of industries that we are attracting to the Tri-Cities to mitigate against this super reliance upon Hanford. And of course, you know, in Franklin County we have a lot of agriculture, even Benton County too, for sure. We now have the wine industry, we have some retail, we have some manufacturing, and I think, you know, they've really tried very hard over the last 20 years, 30 years, to beef up our economic base that's so not relied on Hanford. And so that kind of comes back to that discussion about diversification, income diversification, community aspect, you know, what's our revenue based on here in the Tri-Cities. Diversification really helps us kind of weather these storms that we're experiencing right now, and it trickles down into our personal economic life, our household. So that is definitely one of the things that I wanted to touch on today was this idea of diversification. And for me personally, you know, I'm looking at my own household. I'm most familiar with my clients and my household as far as what could we have done differently to prepare for this time? What will we do differently going forward? And so as a result, I'm, you know, suggesting to you, consider what other sources of income you can add to your household so that you are not in such a bind if we experience another time like this. Or, you know, consider this. What happens if this recession that we're entering is a prolonged recession? You know, now what is our choices? Now what are we going to be doing? And so it's a little late to kind of make preparations, but I don't think there's ever too late of a point to kind of consider some of these things. So again, tightening your budget, cutting any unnecessary spending. We are all getting this stimulus check. I got mine yesterday. So it's sitting in my bank account. What am I going to do with it? Am I going to pay down debt with that? Am I going to save it? Am I going to put it in a high yield savings account? Am I going to put it into stocks because stocks are a little bit on sale still? I'm not sure what I plan to do with it. Most likely it's just going to sit in the bank account for a little while, because even though in our household we feel secure with our jobs and I don't feel threatened. I don't think my husband feels threatened, but I can't speak to 6 months from now. I don't know what the economy is going to be doing 3, 4, 5, 12 months from now. So maybe having just that little bit extra cash cushion in our accounts makes sense for me. For you, you're going to have to talk about that with your household. Again, I want to be a resource for people. If there's anything that you're kind of tossing around and you feel like you need some help with, exploring options, pros and cons of things, you know, I want to be that resource for people. I'm offering just a couple of hours of time. If anybody needs an extra set of eyes, ears, and a brain power to kind of work through things, you know, I'm your gal. So reach out to me, message me, or whatever that looks like. I'm happy to help. It's what I do. So I think that's it for Thursday. I will be back here tomorrow, 11:35 every weekday for the time being. I call it my little Facebook experiment. So look forward to seeing you all again here tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.